yeah. I love my HBCU and bar. I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU and man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, too tired. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, episode 796. This is the Indy Report. I've been out for a couple weeks, man. I had some vacations going on. I went on a cruise and I came back the following week, and then I had to fly out to Houston. Unfortunately, Dr. Cavill was flying out down for the BCIC around the same time that I was heading to Houston, so we didn't get to link up while I was in Houston. But I was down in his parts last week, to go compete, do some esports type of stuff, do some networking, and compete a little bit in some fighting games. So I kind of had a blast there. My apologies for the last couple of weeks, but sometimes I have to take my breaks too. So we're gonna get into the show. I have a lot of thoughts about a few things that's been going on. What's going on, Emmett? I hope all is well with you, sir. So we will go ahead and run the intro. We might have some folks here. There's a lot of folks that are on assignment right now. So welcome to episode 796 of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU's athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I am your host, David L. Rhodes, along with my co-hosts who are currently on assignment, Brandon King, Tariq Wilson, and Jeffrey Johnson. We are filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 12:30 a.m. studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Hey, shout out to A&T Roy. Yo, you are hilarious. I will say that. We are going to talk about A&T. As you can see, I got my shirt. Shout out to the ladies. They made the NCAA tournament. They swept Maryland Eastern Shore to win their 5th and 6th year MEAC ladies bowling tournament. So shout out to them. I'm going to go over a couple of headlines, and we're going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back around the break and discuss about a couple of coaching changes that are pretty much happening within the SWAC. And I want to discuss something that happened earlier today, which kind of took me aback a little bit. That's CAA related to a point. Since this is the Indy Report, I might as well go ahead and bring that up to speed. So the BCIC was last weekend. Shout out to Virginia State for winning the BCIC by beating Bluefield State University 69-66. The finals feature 2 CIAA programs. For those who don't know, the BCIC is primarily a Division II event. They took care of business with regards with their CIC. Bluefield State had a chance, but they ended up not closing the deal there. I think shout out to them for getting it done. Benedict on the ladies' side ended up winning it on beating Bowie State 66-62. So shout out to Benedict College from my hometown. Shout out to them. I think the BCIC is very important. I believe that Division I programs should definitely get on board. Division I HBCU programs should absolutely get on board with this, and I've been vocal about that. The way that things go with regards to getting access to tournaments, if you don't make the NCAA tournament, it's getting scarce by the year, and I think this is a golden opportunity to have an event where you can crown a champion within that base, get to potentially see some matchups that you normally wouldn't see. I don't think the SWAC and the MEAC play enough. I know the A&T and Hampton does a pretty good job to get some HBCU matchups in the in out of conference play, since they're both in the CAA, and I think Tennessee State is coming around with regards to that as well. But I think that an opportunity to get some unique matchups is there in the cards. You know, A&T, they played 5 MEAC opponents. They went 4-1 against them this year in men's basketball. You know, you had Tennessee State, who was outstanding, but they made the tournament, so they wouldn't have qualified. But you know, you have opportunities to create some unique matchups that you just don't hardly see. I know we don't have too many like invitationals or classics during the season. So I think it's a good thing to have some type of tournament at the end of the season to culminate it. Because we want to have more HBCUs in the postseason play. I think on the ladies' side, it's still warranted, but it's not as dire as it is on the men's side, in my opinion. But there's nothing wrong with having more teams play some ball. So that's just my thoughts on it. I think on the men's side, it's there's a lot of good teams that probably should have had opportunity to have some level of postseason play. There was no CBI tournament for the men. NIT is very difficult to get in with regards to that. So it's I think it's needed right now. There's like a college crown tournament that I believe that Fox run, which is like their version of the NIT. No HBCUs made an appearance in any of these tournaments that I'm speaking. So how's men's basketball looked like the best by far, in my opinion, I agree. I think they were numero uno. I would say that on the ladies' side as well. I think it's much wider on the women's side when it comes to that. I think Howard was the best on both the men and the women's side, in my opinion. Well, man, shout out to Hampton. Shout out to Hampton. The other thing I wanted to discuss before I take the first break. Well, I want to talk about all the resignations after the break. But the other thing that was interesting that was happening while I was away, like A&T, like I said, they won a bowling championship while I was out. You know, they got a MEAC championship. For those who don't think that we're not still in the conference, we do play one sport still in the conference because the CAA does not sponsor bowling currently. So shout out to those ladies. They got a pretty interesting draw coming up this weekend, so it should be interesting to say the least. Oh, we're gonna get into this. Matter of fact, you know what? I want to go ahead and, you know, I'm a little early on the break. I'm hoping that somebody will make an appearance, but I know everybody's busy. After this break, I want to talk about a lot of the things that has been changing, that's been switching up and that's changing in the SWAC from a men's basketball coaching perspective. And I want to talk about what happened with this, because I think it's something that we need to discuss. So I'm going to go ahead and take the first commercial break. What's going on, man? I hope all is well on your end. I'm going to go ahead and take the first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on in the SWAC from a basketball coaching standpoint. So we'll be right back right after this first commercial break.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, episode 796. This is the Indy Report. So while I was away, well, I actually was back from vacation when these things occurred, and it kind of happened in a fast and furious way over the last 48 hours. The first, there were three coaches. Actually, right now, the SWAC, according to reports, there's four openings on the men's basketball side. We'll start with Valley. Their coach will not be returning. He only won, I believe, 12 Division I games in a 4-year period, but it's very hard to win in Valley. I would say it's probably arguably the toughest basketball coaching gig in Division I athletics. Somebody can debate me on that. There's a different level of resources and challenges that those guys have. So it's kind of tough to have an expectation to win there with everything. Now, I think their production is among the best in the SWAC and probably among in HBCUs in the way they produce, and they have some phenomenal commentators. But outside of that, they haven't really been much of a winning program on the men's basketball side. But we have reports of Johnny Jones going with Will Wade to head to LSU. Actually got a shout out on Monty Jones show today, which was kind of hilarious. It was kind of wild because it looks like Will Wade is bringing the band back together, so to speak. So with regards to that, I mean, if reports are accurate, and I know there's been Dr. Cavil reported that was the case, and Coach Jones was saying that it's not. He's not leaving at this time, and some reports are bogus, or maybe it's just a matter of a paperwork drill or whatever. But that's what it appears to be at the time. It currently appears that he's going to be moving on. He had a phenomenal era while he was at Texas Southern. He did a phenomenal job with that basketball program there. So good luck to him if he does decide to head over to LSU. The second coach that made the decision to move on, and he's taken, just to be clear, he's taken an assistant spot at LSU. The second coach that decided to move on was Mo Williams. Mo Williams is leaving Jackson State to go take an assistant coaching job at Kentucky. So shout out to him and what he's going to do. His son is currently got recruited there as a 4-star. Initially, he got committed to Jackson State. He pulled back his commitment. Now he's committed to Kentucky. So shout out to him on getting that opportunity to go play for Kentucky, and shout out to Mo Williams for going and moving on. And then the third one was the first one that kind of dropped initially was Coach Tony Madlock of Alabama State moving on to go coach with Penny Hardaway in Memphis and be an assistant coach for Penny Hardaway. They were assistants at the time at Memphis at a point. They were, I believe it was at Memphis, if I remember correctly. So shout out to Tony Miller getting that opportunity. All three of those moves have one main thing in common, and that is that it's about relationships. Those guys used to previously coach with the folks that are current head coaches there. So when you see those type of things, you shouldn't be that shocked. I think the big thing, though, for a lot of folks that's going on with regards to this is how fast and furious those coaches happen. Like because it was kind of in a continual span of, like, most of it happened within a 24-hour period. So it was folks were kind of taken aback, and I keep hearing reports that there's more coaches that might be moving on, or there might be more coaches that are going to be removed. I'm gonna be transparent when I say this. Like, the portal's about to open after the Final Four. The portal is going to open. So I think you got to kind of make these decisions now with regards to that, so you don't fall behind, or you're just going to be using a mulligan for your first year. But then again, the Tennessee State head coach Nolan Smith kind of blew that out the water, because he was a late hire, and he ended up winning the OVC in his first season. So it all depends. But the bottom line is that you kind of still going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit in that regard, besides the fact that you got to deal with a chunk of the team most likely heading into the portal. So there's a delicate balance between that. And I already know, like, a lot of the players that have won the SWAC awards at the end of the season have already announced that they're going to head into the portal. So there's going to be a lot of challenges within that as well. But you have 3 SWAC coaches moving on to be assistant coaches at P4 programs, and you have another SWAC coach who was relieved of his duties. So a third of the SWAC are looking for head coaches right now, and I'm hearing rumblings that there might be some more. So it might not be within the SWAC, but it might be other things as well. Yeah, I keep hearing that there might be more. But then the other thing you got to worry about, if you're in the SWAC, is a current SWAC coach taking another position at one of these openings, because we've already seen that happen when we saw what happened with Patrick Query leaving FAMU and heading down to Grambling. So you could and Dante Jackson going from Grambling to Alabama A&M. So you're that's a good segue. With the recent coaching elevations in the SWAC, is this evidence it's a better high caliber conference? I don't know. That's a good way to look at it, but I would question other things, which leads me to what happened in the CAA regarding the coach at Campbell. So the coach at Campbell, I'm going to pull up in my phone because it's going to probably be a little bit quicker there. But the coach at Campbell resigned today to take an assistant coaching job at Louisville. And he had an interesting statement. I will read said statement. Well, I'll read the statement from the coach. The coach's name, I'm probably butcher his last name. It's John Andrzejczyk. Yeah, Coach Andrzejczyk. Okay, I probably butchered it, and that's okay. Dear Campbell community, I say this with a heavy heart, but I will be stepping down as your head men's basketball coach. It was an extraordinary privilege to live here and represent this program. I love this place, and I've worked tirelessly to reconnect with Campbell alumni across generations. I have thrown my everything at this program and building the kind of team that you deserve and the kind of team that you can compete for championships. Along the way, I have made friendships that will last a lifetime. The people here are truly special. Over the last 6 months, it has become clear that Campbell has made the decision to shift their commitment from basketball. Simply put, the institution now has different priorities, and they are not compatible with putting the kind of team on the floor that you deserve. As difficult as this is, I respect the decision and understand it as one that the university feels it must make in what are unprecedented times in higher education. Despite months of intense work and collaboration with AD Hannah Bazemore and our terrific athletics administration and several creative options that were proposed and thoroughly explored, there are no pathways that the institution will support to fund the program appropriately moving forward. I am deeply grateful for Dr. Creed, AD Hannah Bazemore, and Deputy AD Justin Wilkins for giving me this opportunity a year ago. He just became the coach last year. This was his only season at Campbell. And for a year ago, and for their consistent support over the last 11 months, I certainly wish things had gone differently, as I know many others do. Campbell will always be a special place for me. From the bottom of my heart, I will always pull for this university, this program, and the wonderful people of the Creek. Roll Humps. So for me, we just there's a coach that took an assistant's position because the program wasn't funded properly. And now, for those that don't realize, Campbell's in the CAA. They joined the CAA around the same time as A&T. A&T, Hampton, when the CAA had a bunch of institutions that joined the conference. So I'm here to tell you that there could be part of that, because I think that the SWAC has some phenomenal coaches. I really do. I think those guys and gals coach their butts off. And I think it's shown that there are some really good coaches within that conference. But that being said, it goes back to the challenges of the mid-major and the ability to fund it, to fund the program properly, particularly on the NIL side. There's some head coaches that are starting to make the decision that they can make some more money somewhere else. And on top of that, be able to not have to worry about certain things that you have to do in the smaller conferences, in the smaller institutions. And the thing that makes it unique about Campbell, which fortunately our HBCUs do not have this challenge, is that they have declining enrollment as an institution. And I've harped on multiple shows in the past about how important having enrollment is. So, you know, when you take all those things into account, it's going to be very challenging in this landscape with NIL. Now, I don't know if I don't think the SWAC is going to have, the SWAC and the MEAC are going to have similar challenges versus playing in the CAA, whereas like we have institutions that have NIL budgets of $2 million in the CAA. We have two that has over $2 million budgets. But one thing I'll say about Campbell, and there was reports about this a few years ago, they were already going in the direction of not taking athletics as serious as they have in the past, because they used to have a baseball team that was ranked in the top 25. Like, their track team was really good. Track coach left primarily because they told them they weren't going to fund the program like that anymore. So, and then I think, and ironically enough, I think besides the enrollment challenges that Campbell's had, the other challenge that they've had too is when they added football, it's not conducive to what they were prior to them adding football. So I don't know if they're going to make the decision to move on from football. I don't know what the goal is going to be, but I think there's going to be some mid-majors that are going to have to start making a choice, which is unfortunate. Some people think that, we'll make the decision to go a certain direction and maybe we'll focus on basketball versus football. But I've noticed that there are more and more schools, there are more and more institutions that are going to have to start making these decisions. Now, there's some that's already set up for success. Like you think about somebody like in High Point who does not have football, their basketball team has gotten more, their institution has gotten more national attention when they pulled that upset earlier the other week. So it's just, but in the state of North Carolina, it's very difficult. Like there's a lot of Division I programs between FBS and FCS in that state. Like they're everywhere. Like a lot of folks don't know this, but A&T is the only Division I football program in the city of Greensboro. And we have colleges galore there, but we're the only show in town from a Division I standpoint. But you still got Wake Forest up the street. Like Wake Forest is 30 minutes away. Duke is not that far off. UNC Chapel Hill is not. Duke is about an hour. Chapel Hill is about an hour. Raleigh's about an hour. Charlotte's about an hour 15, hour 20. Like you have a bunch of FBS programs right around you. So like, you know, we're in the center of it. And then on top of that, you're not even counting all the FCS programs you got. Campbell, School Down the Road, Gardner Webb. Like there's a lot of football. Appalachian State it's not like there's a bunch of football in the state of North Carolina, and the talent is plentiful as well. So it becomes a challenge with regards to that. But when you talk about a coach being very blunt when it comes to an institution that is not funding athletics properly. That is, when I saw the quote, particularly over the last 6 months, when he pretty much said, I don't think you guys are not funding this the way it needs to be funded. And Campbell went 16-18 overall. Yeah, 16-18 overall. And they were 8-10 in the CAA. And they beat 1 seed UNCW in the tournament, in the CAA tournament. Stopped them from literally stopped them from repeating. So the guy can coach. There's no question about that. But when somebody comes out and says that's pretty rough, and pardon me, it's pretty damning too. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds within Campbell, but it also makes me think about making sure that our institutions are doing what needs to be right. But it does start from the top. It starts from the top about whether or not they are serious about athletics or not. And alumni giving is important, but there's also more to it than that when it comes to trying to compete in this landscape. Now, A&T's been doing a pretty good job from a funding standpoint, from an NIL standpoint. We just got a big donation, a naming donation, not too long ago, for NIL, which is primarily going to go to football. But the bottom line is that you're going to have to compete in this space, and folks are going to have to make decisions, and they're not going to always be good. It's not going to be a decision that folks aren't going to necessarily be thrilled with, and they're going to be tough decisions when it comes to this. But I wanted to bring that story up because it just the trend that was happening with all the SWAC coaches making the decision to become assistants, and it could have just been relationship based, but I know it can't be fun losing your players every year, and A&T's going through that too. A&T's pretty much lost their top 3 players in the portal. But these top 3 players are getting a substantial amount of money. Like, and I've said this on the show in the past. I don't have an issue if somebody decides to go up to P4 and we just got outbid and it is what it is. Our big challenge is when we're out here and we end up losing to folks within the conference, and that's when I don't like. Like we had a guy that was starting for us and ended up leaving to go to UNCW to come off the bench, and they were paying him a substantial more money than what we were willing to offer. So things like that. How long will Reggie Theus be at Bethune-Cookman? Is he winning enough? I mean, they won the regular season title this year. I mean, I think that's winning enough for me. I mean, at some point they're gonna break through and win the tournament, but I think that's winning enough. And he's also the AD. They're not gonna get rid of him. He's doing what he needs to do. Now, you could say with his NIL budget, he should have won the tournament, but then again, you could say the same thing for a team like a UNCW who had almost a $2.5 million NIL budget, and they went one and done in the tournament. So it's all about perspective there. Yeah, like I said, man, I think Howard. I said Howard were going to win both in the men and the women, and the women was much easier to call than the men, but that's what I expected. But they by far were the best teams in the conference. And both on the men and the women's side. Oh yeah, and that matters. But the thing that I'm more concerned about is that I guess there was reports that some coaches were already recruiting for the new job, which is troublesome. But that's a whole different discussion. I don't think Campbell's funding their athletic program, and the reports came out back in 2024. They're not funding it like they used to, because when the thing is, and this goes back to the discussion when it comes to enrollment, if your enrollment falls 20% and you're dependent on that enrollment to pay for athletics, because you're charging these athletic fees, it becomes an issue. And we were talking about it in a chat that I was in. They charge student fees of over $1,000, and that includes everything. That doesn't just include that probably has athletics in the pool as well. There's no separate athletic fees like we have at A&T. So they're charging these students over $1,000 a semester, excuse me. And all that's not necessarily going to athletics. But let's say it all did. Their enrollment is under 3,000 students. That's not enough to cover the bill. Like, that's not enough to cover the bill. Not when you consider they're in the CAA and they're traveling from South Carolina all the way up to Maine, right? Because they play football in the CAA as well. So they're traveling from South Carolina all the way up to Maine. But even if you take out the football aspect, you're still traveling from South Carolina all the way up to Boston, Massachusetts. Like the travel budget got to be budgeting. Like it's not cheap. You can't bus ride all that. Like when they made the move from the Big South to the CAA, it was kind of, some people felt a way about it because they were worried about whether or not they can afford it. The reason why they're in the Big South is because of how the travel costs are significantly less, because you only have schools between South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, and that's it. Like football, they're outside of that, but the rest of the sports, because the Big South is a basketball league first, kind of similar to the CAA being a basketball league first. It's a lot. Yeah, but it's ultimately about enrollment, right? Like it's about the numbers. Like if you have less than 3,000 students and you need to have like a $20 to $25 million athletic budget, that's not sustainable if you're not fundraising, if you're not able to get more money up. But it's also could be decisions within the institutions about what's more important. That might change soon, man. I mean, I would like to believe one of our HBCUs is eventually within the Atlanta metro area, is eventually going to move up to D1. I still believe that that's going to happen. Now, this is true. I agree, but I will say this, and I probably shouldn't give this light to Campbell, but I will anyway. I don't think Campbell's not that big of a brand. I mean, they're not. I mean, so losing Campbell is not going to be like the end all be all. But I don't think Campbell's going anywhere. If I was Campbell, this is exactly what I would do. I would go back to the Big South, and be part of that Big South OVC situation, and just you take the hit on the football side, or decide that football ain't for you, because for a while they didn't have scholarships. So maybe you just decide football ain't for you. Football ain't your calling. You just be a basketball league. Go back to the Big South as a basketball league. You could do that too. Well, look, man, the question becomes how much more. Well, then again, Prairie View's coach did say that they weren't paying none of their students. But yeah, I was going to ask, like, what about all the other institutions within the conference? Like, how much is their NIL budget? Like, A&T's NIL budget is $300K, and that is for basketball. It's $300K, but when you compare us to everybody else within the conference, that's at the bottom. Like, that's at the bottom from a NIL standpoint. Townsend, who also has football's NIL budget, is $800,000. Like UNC Wilmington is over 2 million, Charleston's over 2 million. So like we're like, but you got to remember too, half of the schools that play in the CAA for basketball don't have a football program. So basketball is where their money goes. Charleston just lost their coach and hired a new coach, and they took their coach from a MAC school. They took their coach from Akron, and Akron has a pretty good basketball program. Wins a lot. I believe they made the NCAA tournament this year. They took a coach. They took a coach with a phenomenal record and told him to come to Charleston. But then when I looked at the rankings of the conference, the CAA is ranked higher in basketball than the MAC is. So it's considered an upgrade, which is good for the conference from a basketball standpoint, because I think there's a lot of folks within the conference that still believe that they're going to become a two-bid league again. I think it's going to be challenging with the way that the Power Four and the Big East is operating right now, though. It's going to be very hard because they're not facing people, and the net rankings is not as fair and balanced as it should be. Yeah, yep. But it's just one season, right? Like, they're always in it. Like, UNCW won their regular season title, and they were the tournament champions last year. Charleston went prior to that. Like, those two are typically the ones that are there. And I'm pretty sure Hofstra budget ain't a slouch either. Like, Hofstra doesn't have football. They got $1 billion endowment. They spend more on athletics than we do. And it's expensive to go to Hofstra too, guys. My daughter goes there. So like, and Hofstra won the tournament this year. And I said that when it came to like seeding, if Hofstra, UNCW, or Charleston wins the tournament, they won't be affected by seed because there was those, all three of those teams are really good. They did well and all three did very well in out of conference play. It's straight cash, homie, but we know that already. Well, I think this is where it's going to end up, but then that means that's going to change March Madness because I believe this, and we're going to go to break, and then I'm going to have one final segment and close out the show. But one thing about March Madness is that if it was up to the Power 4 programs, we wouldn't be in there anyway. And I'm not just talking about HBCU. I think they would get rid of the mid-major. Like, and from my perspective, I think that's boring. Like, I think you got to have mid-majors. You got to have teams that are going to make a run. So we'll see. But I don't disagree here. But you know, somebody got to sponsor and pay for it, and the conferences got to be on board. Like that's why I think we're missing something with the BCIC not making it Division I, and I'm gonna stand by that. But all right, I'm gonna take this last break. We'll be right back after this last break, and we'll talk a little bit of sports. But I really wanted to get into the topics regarding some of these other things because I thought they were fascinating. So we'll be right back after this next break.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
And we have to fund our kids in these colleges, and we have to make sure our kids have seats in these colleges.
Now, what about HBCUs? You mentioned
absolutely. You got to fund them all, and you got to make sure they're properly funded. You know, the real reason why I went after Comcast and Charter, it didn't have anything to do with my cable networks. It didn't. What happened was a gentleman wanted to do the Black College Sports Network in partnership with the HBCUs. And Comcast did not accept it. And that would have made a lot of money for these black colleges.
Absolutely.
And it would have educated the Black College Sports Network. This is what he wanted to do. That would have educated a lot of black kids. And when they didn't do that, that's when I came off the bench and said, okay, I'm going to light you up like a Christmas tree. Okay. That was the real reason why I got into it, was when I saw what happened with the Black College Sports Network, which I don't own. I just knew.
Why didn't you buy it?
I just knew. I just knew that these black.
I like that talk.
Right? I knew that these black colleges were going to benefit, and these black kids were going to get the education that they deserved and not have to pay.
There's a shot.
That might be.
It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. All you guys at BCSN, we really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
Welcome back to episode 796 of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. This is the Indy Report. I am David O. Rhodes, your host. It looks like I'm going to finish this show solo, man. So this is where it's going to be today. So I'm going to go ahead. There's some more comments and I want to keep discussing this because this is what happened over the past couple of days from my perspective is more of a come to Jesus moment. There are I think folks recall when St. Francis made a decision to go from Division 1 to Division 3, and I said, soon we're going to have these discussions about who's serious, who's not serious, because you got to start making choices. And I know that the threat of getting rid of or moving athletics down from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 or whatever you decide to do, the biggest challenge is how that impacts enrollment. I would argue that it might not impact it as much because of the branding that we have. When you start thinking about all the other perspectives when it comes to that. Yeah, I mean, they are expensive. They are and these are expensive. Now, here's the thing about upgrading the facilities. That's going to be something that we're going to have to do on our own, particularly as a public institution, because a lot of times we can't use public funding to do that. So that's something that we're going to have to figure out or find loopholes or ways to make it work. And the thing that one big thing that a lot of folks have realized is that the students, they're more about the money than the facilities, based on what's been told and been said. And it's funny because there was I can't remember the player right now, but I'll tell you the story anyway. So I cover the NFL. I got another podcast to cover the Carolina Panthers, and it's draft season right now. And the big thing that's happening right now is everybody's like going through combine numbers and what's going on in regards to that and pro days and things of that sort. And there was a player from a Power 4 program, and one of the scouts said that he was pretty much fat. Like he was pretty much overweight. He was not. He was very fat. He should be more built. How are you out here coming from a Power 4 institution? And those guys have outstanding facilities. So there's more to it than that. Like you got to have the right folks to get you ready and things of that sort too. So I say that to say that, I think from a facility standpoint, I think we do have challenges in that regard. But I also think that it's also based on the people and the person and the coaching and the strength and conditioning and things of that sort. I think the first thing I want to fix is the nutrition side of the fence. And then NIL. And then maybe like upgrade the facilities and stuff and such. I mean, you have to decide if you want to play in the NIL space or not. I think if you're not going to be willing to play in the NIL space, you have to, as alumni and a fan base, accept what your team is going to be. I just think it's going to be difficult to consistently be good without NIL. Occasionally you'll have a team that doesn't have NIL do some damage. I'm not saying that's not possible, but the thing that I'm trying to say is you have to be prepared to pay the piper if you expect your teams to be good. Because if there's other institutions that can take care of business, so to speak, take care of their players, their student athletes. Now, student athletes, then that's what you're going to get the after effects of it if you cannot. I think we're going to start to see more institutions pare down sport. Yes. I think if they can stay within Title IX, I think more sports are going to get cut, or they'll be there, but it will be under resourced because they're going to invest in the big schools. So I think it's going to be difficult in that regard to try to keep some of these sports going. And like everybody's like, well, Congress can fix y'all. I think it's going to be a while before this gets on Congress's hit list to fix. And that's just my thought, my perspective. I think the Wild Wild West aspect of NIL and things of that sort is going to be like this for at least another 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe longer than that. Like I don't anticipate Congress is going to fix any of this. So we have to decide that this is where we want to swim or not. Are we going to try to keep swimming, or are we going to drown? I mean, that's what it boils down to. But I think increasing enrollment, improving fundraising, and I think we can compete in this thing. I think the SWAC has done. I'll be quite frank. I think the SWAC has done a better job from the standpoint, from a conference standpoint, than the MEAC has. Like, there are schools in the MEAC that have larger NIL budgets than the SWAC. I think Howard probably dwarfs all of us from that standpoint. But I do believe that the SWAC as a conference has done a much better job in getting the institutions prepared for what's coming when it comes to their media deals and SWAC TV. I think they're doing a much better job in that regard. So shout out to them with regards to that. I think they got this thing rolling the way they needed to get it rolling. They're figuring it out as they can figure it out. So shout out to them. I just think that now the institutions got to be on board and be aware about what is continuing to come. And then you're gonna have to start asking your leadership the tough questions, not just the AD, because the presidents and the chancellors are the ones that are going to be making the calls about whether or not they're serious about athletics or not. The AD is just trying to do their job with what they got. Why are Division II HBCUs holding their own against Peter White counterparts in NCAA payoff competition? Isn't that more rewarding than watching South Carolina's women's team beat Southern by 90 points? To be fair, South Carolina was doing this to everybody. And so was UConn. I mean, UConn was up by 50 points at the half against Syracuse. You know? So I think the money's different. Like the Division II schools, the money's different. It's a little bit closer. The gap is a little bit closer. Like there's some sports where we can compete, where the gap is a little bit closer. Like bowling, the gap is a little bit closer. Track, the gap is a little bit closer. Like it comes down to dollars and cents, but the gap is a little bit closer. So that's just how I feel. You know, I think the gap is just closer in Division II than it is in Division I. Right? Yeah. Yep. You can't complain about where your program is if you don't want nothing to do with the fight. Look. Let me tell you something, man. I'll tell y'all a quick story before I adjourn, because I can go ahead and say this. So, right now, there's pockets of the A&T fan base that are not happy with some of the changes regarding football tickets that's coming down the pike, and I'm watching. I'm like watching this. So the bottom line is, our alumni chapters used to get GHO tickets, and they decided to pull them back. And the reason why they decided to pull them back, one of the big reasons why they made the decision, was because the students was feeling a way about the fact that they didn't get guaranteed access to the game. And for me, and I said this, if I'm a student and I'm paying almost $1,000, I think the athletic fees is almost $900, like $870 if I remember correctly. If I'm paying $870 a semester in athletic fees and I don't get access to all the games, I think I would feel a way about that. So A&T is trying to alleviate that by getting more access for the students and telling the alumni base to buy season tickets if you want to have access to homecoming. They didn't even increase the prices. I've been begging for them to increase the prices for years, but a lot of folks felt the way. But I think like where A&T is trying to go, there's going to be a point where you're going to have to be a donor to get access to GO. I think that's where to get access to the game. I think that's where we're going to end up going. And I will say this, and JT, I don't disagree with you, but here's the math problem. A&T is the largest HBCU in the country. We got over 15,000 students. For the big games, there's a limit of how many tickets they give out. I think it's only like 5,000. I think for 5, maybe it's probably end up being more this year. But there's an allocation for the big games that the students can get, and that's what the bigger schools do, by the way. Like some of the bigger institutions, there's a lottery to decide how the students get the tickets, because a lot of them have more students than seats, and you gotta be able to sustain it. Yeah, it's a pool. Like that's what we do now. But it becomes interesting because there was a time where you can make it to everything. Like when I was a student, I got to go to all the games. I didn't have to worry about anything. But when you're out here charging $870 a year for athletics, I think they should be able to go to homecoming. Like I seriously do. Yeah, I mean, they cover 60% of the athletic budget. They should absolutely have first dibs. I don't disagree there. Late to the party. Yeah, we are. But I will say this, HBCUs as a whole has done a phenomenal job when it comes to increasing enrollment. Like, so I talk about my daughter a lot on this show occasionally. Well, I talk to her about her a lot because I'm proud of her. But she was part of the largest high school class in American history, the class of 2025. So there's nowhere else to go but down. And when you start thinking about the math, right? 2008 was the financial crisis, the mortgage crisis that was going on. Think folks was out here having kids in 08 and 09? Not as much as they were prior to that. So when you take that into account, you know, you're going to have less students that are going to graduate from high school, which means there's less students that's going to go to college. I believe, you know, when you talk about African Americans going to college on the black male side, it's still something that's being worked. So you're going to have less of a pool of candidates, and HBCUs are not the only ones still coming after our students. Even with all the DEI rollbacks, there are still institutions that are actually increasing their black enrollment, their Hispanic enrollment. I can name one for you, and you might be surprised. Duke has increased their minority enrollment since this whole thing has happened. So, you know, it's about like continue to leverage the fact that we're still getting that growth. So we shall see. Let's see. Yep, $870 a year. And I think, and it's among the highest in all the UNC system. There's 16 schools in the UNC system. I personally think the freshmen should get priority. I think it should be freshmen, seniors, grad. If the grad students pay the athletic fees, it should be freshmen, seniors, grad in that order. That's just my opinion on it, because I think it's important for your freshman year to get the full effect. Sophomore, juniors, y'all got to wrestle for the remainders. I mean, I'll say this, the Mississippi HBCUs have actually gone up. Alcorn went up, Valley went up, Jackson went up. Yeah, like, now I can't speak for what's going on at the Florida schools though. Like, I can't speak on that. Like, I think the running joke I have with A&T is that we're at the point where we're kind of like, I think there's probably folks within the UNC system that wants us to fall a little bit, but the Greensboro area can't afford us to at this point. We're so encapsulated within that city that they can't, like, we're an economic impact for the state of $3 billion. That's too much money for them to risk losing. So that's why when we were looking for our chancellor, they knew they couldn't get this one wrong, because they needed somebody to make sure we get the R1. Because that R1 would open doors for more money, which could potentially help our athletics department, long term. So yeah, it was imperative that they didn't get the new chancellor wrong after having Chancellor Martin 1.0 for over a decade, 15 years to be exact. So they could not afford to miss out on that one. But all right, man, this was a fun show, guys. I'm about to close this thing out. If you guys want to hear me talk about this some more, I'm going to be on MD on the HBCU Nightly Network in about 5 minutes. So thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I'm David L. Rhodes with my co-hosts, Brandon King, Tariq Wilson, and Jeffrey Johnson. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you follow Dr. Kenyatta Cavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Go to hupirateShip.com for Hampton Athletics with my guys. Make sure you go to sneakershoptalk.com. Check out some of the articles there. And you can follow me on Twitter at champd1012. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk to you soon. Course lecture dismissed.